Investigators suspect that Neil and Stuart Woodman planned and organized the hit on their parents. But they have absolutely nothing tying the brothers to the murders. Nothing until a reward for information brings forward two former LAPD officers. They describe a suspicious encounter with Neil Woodman.
Several months earlier, when Neil's son was about to be bar mitzvahed, they had been summoned to a meeting in a restaurant by Neil, and an individual by the name of Stephen Hommick was there who did most of the talking.
Neil and his friend hired the officers as security guards.
Their main function was to keep the parents, Gerald and Vera, away from the bar mitzvah of their grandson.
The instructions were clear.
If they came around, take care of them. Now, in our terms, working homicide and on the street, take care of them meant to kill somebody. The statement indicated in my mind that Neil was really planning on doing something. It was possibly the first step towards eliminating his parents.
Running background checks on Stephen Hommick, police turn up a surprise. Hommick is also a former member of the LAPD.
Steve Hommick had worked for the Los Angeles Police Department, but was going to be fired during his probationary period, so he resigned in lieu of being fired.
As a crime writer, Faye Kellerman knows that money and murder are a powerful mix.
The saga was getting stranger and stranger. A chilling murder, two brazen suspects, and now an ex-cop with a dirty past. As I followed the story in the paper, I couldn't even speculate what bizarre detail would come next.
Police learn that Hommick now lives in Las Vegas. When they check with the FBI office there, they learn that the former cop is now working the other side of the law.
He was mob muscle. If the union tried to get a foothold in one of the casinos, he'd find a few of the leaders of the union and break their legs. If someone needed to be talked to about paying a debt to a loan shark, he'd do the talking.
It was in Las Vegas that Hommick first met two high-rolling brothers from Brentwood, Neil and Stuart Woodman.
The boys kind of looked up to Steve Hommick like, hey, here's a real wise guy. I mean, this guy can do a lot of things for us. So I think that's where the relationship started. Steve Hommick started in the employ of the boys with insurance scams, taking their cars out and setting them afire, collecting the insurance.
The LAPD has very little information on Hommick, so Croxley and Holder decide to contact the FBI in Las Vegas.
I received a call from Detective Jack Holder. He asked if we had anything in our files that might help.
It turns out the FBI had been keeping a close eye on Stephen Hommick. When they go back and check his movements around the time of the Woodman murders, they make a startling discovery.
Stephen Hommick had left the day before the homicide from Las Vegas with a Michael Dominguez, flew to Los Angeles, and returned to either the evening of or the next day of the homicides.
Agent Doherty also gives LAPD investigators a lead.
He had an informant who had some information regarding our murders. Jack and I went to Las Vegas and met an individual by the name of Stuart Siegel.
Siegel, a Vegas con man, says he has information. But first he wants to make a deal.
He would be willing to help us and testify if we in turn would assist him in his problems in San Diego. He was a casino manager and he was involved in a bingo scam. He was found guilty and going to be sentenced to a California prison. He had cancer. He wanted to serve his time in a federal penitentiary near a hospital.
Authorities agree to the deal, and Siegel tells his story. He describes a meeting with Stephen Hommick just days before the murders.
A meeting was over at Bill Hommick's house, and that'd be Steve Hommick's brother, and Michael Dominguez was present, Stuart Siegel was present, and Bill gave Steve some .357 live rounds of ammunition.
Hammock knew that Stuart Siegel was Jewish, and so he used the occasion to ask Stuart what was the usual custom on Yom Kippur. He told him that he and his brother were going to go to Los Angeles and take care of a couple of Jews.
Superficially, it made sense that they picked Yom Kippur because they knew when and where the Woodmans would be. But subconsciously, this was an act of profanity, and I knew whoever planned this crime had a bloodlust for vengeance.
With the case finally starting to take shape, detectives turned their attention to Stephen Hammock's travel companion, Michael Dominguez.
Michael Dominguez was a good personal friend of Steve Hammock. He was into narcotics. He had done some jail time, and he was like a puppy dog. Whatever Steve said to do, Mike did it.
Michael Dominguez, with his background and the crimes he committed, it didn't surprise me at all that the two would hook up and be involved in criminal activity.
Investigators are determined to connect the Woodman brothers to this murder plot. But just as they're putting the pieces together, they realize one of the suspects may be plotting to kill again.